Okay, so this morning we're going to discuss the definition and principles of communication. Okay, so it's very important. Why is it? We need to study communication. Why is it? Communication is very important in this in our life. Okay, so let's start first. Now, can you tell me what have you observed in the picture?
They
Yeah.
are arguing po because the hard work they've done does not match up.
Okay. What do you think is the reason, or what do you think is the reason behind that they are arguing? Or what do you think, what do they lack? Ano ba yung may kulang sa kanila?
They lack communication, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Sige. I think every one of you has the same answer. Yes, they lack communication, which means they have communication barriers. They have barriers effective communication. That is why they are arguing, they have misunderstandings, there are miscommunications that is happening here in the picture. Okay, so go to the next slide. Now, we have discussed, or you have you said just a while ago that they lack communication, that they lack this, that, etc., etc. But we'll first try to define what is communication. Okay, is communication different from talking, or they're just the same? Okay, so I'll try to ask you on the last part of our discussion, is communication different from talking? Okay, now we'll try to define first what is communication. So it came from the Latin word communicare, so which means to share, unite, or join. So that's what you meant by communication. Okay, so it is the process by which people shares ideas or thoughts which can be understood by another through a chosen medium. Ibig sabihin, or it means that communication is an exchanging of ideas and information to one another. Okay, it is to send and to receive messages through a specific channel. So there are two people in the communication process, the sender and the receiver. Okay, and they're going to use a specific channel, or are they going to use a specific medium? It depends on the situation, what kind of medium they're going to use. Okay, so proceed to the next slide. Now, there are also principles in communication. May principle. Kahit yung tao, there is also principles. Even communication, they have also principles. Okay? So, first one is a schemata-driven. Schemata-driven. So, schemata or schemas provides a basis on how we relate to ideas, concepts, and events based on past experiences. So meaning you have prior experiences that will, related to the topic that you are talking about or that you are communicating about. So it's best to have these experiences. You need to share these experiences because you may never know that the sender has the same experience as the receiver. So it's very important they do have connection one another. Okay, next one, it's interpretative act. So it means there that the sender has the absolute idea of what the meaning of the message is. Yes, because the sender has already idea because he has already organized his thoughts, what he is going to send or what message is he going to send. Because the receiver doesn't have any idea. Okay? They could only interpret, they could only guess or infer based on how it appeals to his or her senses. Okay? The sender will only just has the absolute idea. He has already idea because he has organized his thoughts. The sender will just interpret, will just guess on what the sender or what the message, on what message, kung ano na-interpret niya. Okay? And those interpretations, babalik sa sender. It will go back to the sender. Ibig sabihin, if there was some connection, if the interpretation is correct, meaning the communication process is a success. Okay? Next is communication is active, forceful, or powerful. So any messages conveyed may have various interpretations, but because of cultural, ideological, and environmental factors. Yes, it's very powerful. Communication is very powerful. It's an active one. Because, for example, in America, we don't use Mr., Miss, attorney, or you. There are no they don't use titles to call, of course, their co-workers or just their colleagues. They don't use these titles. But if you use these titles in the Philippines, okay siya. Okay? I have just a little short story. I have a student in my full-time job. I have a student who came from America. So he calls me my first name. So what happens? His classmates was telling him, or yung parang pinagsabihan siya na huwag mo sabihin si Miss Connie na Connie. Okay, because for Filipinos, it's a sign of disrespect. So what they did, they corrected him. They corrected the student, which is a good thing because they correct him. Because the culture of the US is different from the culture of the Philippines. Okay? So make it short, of course, it's very powerful. Communication is very powerful. Next. Communication is symbolic. So when you use nonverbal communications, which expresses ideas through gestures, voice, speech, posture, facial expression, time, and space. Tama yung sabi nila, they said that action speaks louder than words. Okay? Because through this nonverbal communication, these gestures, this posture, your facial expressions, they are more powerful rather than speaking. Because these actions have different meaning. They gave another meaning. So that is why that communication is very symbolic. Next one is communication always results in something. Okay, so it says there that communication creates an effect on the involved parties. Okay, so it will elicit either a verbal or non-verbal response. So big sabihin, the sender, of course, sends a message to the receiver, and then the receiver will act now as a sender, and the sender will act now as a receiver. So it means that it created an effect. Okay? Okay? So there are two or more persons usually participate in this communicative act. So there's two persons only. So it means they will have to result in something. They always result in something. Okay? Next is communication is irreversible. So the discipline of mulling over your thoughts before translating them into words can help avoid any instances which may cause problems directly or indirectly. Just like the statement na think before you think. Before you send your message, you had to make sure it will not offend the receiver or it will not hurt the feelings of the receiver. So kailangan your message should be organized. It must be organized. And you have to think not only once, not only twice, but a million of times before you send your message. Is my message helpful? Is my message going to is my message going to hurt this person or not? Because if this person will get offended or if this person will be hurt, so you have to change or you have to correct the message. Okay? So next, communication is contextual. Yes. So idea exchanges between the sender and the receiver involves communication settings like time, occasion, purpose, or manner of communication. Everything that's around you, most especially your environment, it's one of the most important factors to have a good communication process, that will have a successful communication process. So you have to change, have to look, have to observe your surroundings. When do you think it's the perfect time to tell this person? Where do you think it's the perfect time to tell this person? Because these are several factors that will help the communication process a success. So that is why the communication is contextual. Next one, communication is progressive. So it is a process you learn from birth and continues to evolve as time passes by. When you were little, when you were 1 year old, 2 years old, when you were toddlers, your infants, what was the first thing? What was the first word that comes into your mouth? Sometimes it's mama, sometimes it's papa. Okay? Because children right now, they're engaging themselves into technology. That is why they evolve very fast. So when we were younger, of course, it was communication already. Communication has started, has begun. So it just evolves and evolves over time until you understand. Until you understand now what communication is all about, or what is ano yung topic all about. So it just it's a process. It's a progress. From mama and papa, that's though your first words up until now you have familiarized now everything. You're already ilang na taon kayo from 16 up to 20 years old, you're already on the stage that you are already advanced. You're now young adults, already know what now is communication. What's the progress now in your communication? Okay, next is communication is a process. Yes, it's a process. Several stages take place when people convey and exchange ideas with one another. Okay, so it's a process. So there were several stages. Each stage differs from one another. Okay, so elements or components of work in a elements or components work in a coordinated manner to complete the process. So do you have there certain elements, there are certain factors which will during the communication process. Okay, so communication is a process. Communication is ethical. So a communicative event is expected to follow rules, values, and beliefs agreed upon by members of society. Yes, it's important in a communication process, your attitudes, your values, your behaviors. Bakit? Bakit kaya it's very important to have the right kind of attitude, to have the right kind of behavior during the communication process? Why do you think?
Attitude is very important, ma'am, because kung suplado ka, hindi kayo magkakaisa sa pag attitude is very important.
Okay, I understand. Being suplado will not help, will not contribute in the communication process. Yes, because if you send a message using your suplado voice, how would this receiver interpret you? Ay, parang may sabihin pala kasi suplado siya. Correct. According to Janine, it's kasi mababastos po natin sila. Yes. You need to have the right kind of attitude, to have the right kind of values. Okay? But you have to be careful on those things because let's go back to the other principle. When maybe they will get hurt. So you have to make sure that if you want to make the communication process a success, if you want to make your communication a success, have the right kind of attitude. Have to have the right kind. Okay? And next is communication is influenced by technology and media. So the rapid speed of communication influence how people construct their messages and what platform to use to send their messages. Okay, because we are now influenced by technology and media, so our communication was now influenced by this two, technology and media. Okay? So you have to choose the proper platform or you have to choose the proper medium to send your message. Okay? For example, if you have grudges, so if you post it in public, do you think they will help you on these grudges? No. They will try to see the downside because you have grudges. Actually, social media is not as for me, social media is not a medium for you release your grudges, to release your rants and everything. That's why you have to become technology literate for that. So there will be an appropriate medium. There will be an appropriate medium for you to release these grudges. Okay? What else? Using technology, of course, because we're in a pandemic, how would you send your messages to your classmates? Of course, it's Messenger. Ba? Pag nagsasend kayo ng message, it's Messenger. Okay? And if you want to chat with your friends, of course, you use your voice or video chats. Okay? You have to choose the proper medium for that. For example, when you go now to a job, if you want to apply for a job, since you cannot have a walk-in applicants, but you have to send a message or you have to send your letter in your Gmail accounts, of course, you have to properly introduce yourselves. Then you send your resume, you send your application letter, and that's the time for you to send. But you have to make sure that your message there in your letters are formal. Wag nyo naman parang casual yung, don't make it casual. You have to make it formal. You have to make it formal because you're applying for a job. See na to the next. Now, why do we need to study communication? Bakit kaya we have to study communication?
Communication is linked and deals great impact on education. It is mandatory to the success of a person academically, professionally, and in their personal lives. Tsaka, yung mga right words po na nagagamit natin in communication, kapag ginamit po natin yun, then yung situation mag-end up the way na planado natin and kung paano natin gusto na mangyari.
Hey, that's it. That's correct. Communication is you not only in your personal lives, but of course in your academically and professionally. Okay, let's start first with the academic. So you have to choose the proper platforms in order for you to communicate with your friends, with your classmates, with your teachers, or you use the right kind of words to put in your essays, to put in your messages, to put in your letters. Because it helps it promotes self-improvement. It promotes your self-esteem. It promotes everything. To make it short, of course, to clear up or to reduce communication barriers or communication noises that would affect the effectiveness of communication. It's very important. There are two things that's very important. Why do we need to study communication? Or what these two skills that's very important in communication. Number one is speaking and number two is listening. Pero yung number one talaga is of course your listening skills. Why is it that listening is very important in a communication process? Because listening helps you understand things, di ba? It will help you understand what the receiver or what the sender is trying to tell you. If the sender is telling you something and you're not paying attention, then the communication itself is not a successful one. So kailangan you need to improve your listening. Listening doesn't happen overnight, or the listening skills doesn't work overnight. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of effort to improve listening skills. So you have to listen. Okay? Makinig kayo. Okay? During the listening, of course, huwag kayong magsalita agad. You listen. If the person is already done talking, then that's the time for you to speak. That's the second skill, which is speaking. You speak based on your interpretations. You speak because it's your time to talk. You speak because it helps you, because you have understood what the sender is trying to tell you. You understood something, what the sender is trying to. Okay, let's go back to my question. Is communication different from talking?
Yes po, ma'am. Communication is a two-way process while talking is only a one-way process po.
Communication, yeah, it's an exchange of information, but there is emotions that involve. Communication brings connection. Kaya sinabi doon sa meaning na Latin word to share, to join, or it's a union. Correct? Sabi doon. No? It means, of course, to share, unite, or join because you have connection with one another. Yung talking, it's just plainly talking. So, you just talk. Depende na yun kung they will give you a feedback. They will give you a response. It depends on the person if they want to respond. Okay? So that's the differences between communication, talking. And that's our lesson for this morning. The difference or the definitions and principles of communication.